Drunken Fist and Disturbance, Taijutsu. How do you defeat the world's sharpest eye? The answer is deceptively simple, yet utterly genius. Make it incapable of understanding what you're doing. This, right here, is the definition of using chaos to dismantle order. You see, in close quarters combat, fighters typically read each other's movements, anticipate attacks, and counter accordingly. The Sharingan exponentially amplifies this ability, allowing its users to read an opponent's fighting style like an open book. It's no wonder that the Uchiha are famously skilled in both Taijutsu and Kenjutsu. But now, imagine Rock Lee, staggering like a drunken whirlwind, or Killer Bee, dancing madly with 7 swords in hand. That, my friend, is the kind of insanity that even the Sharingan struggles to keep up with. Rock Lee's Drunken Fist first appeared during the Chunin exams arc, and it immediately showcased the terrifying power of randomness. Once Lee slips into his drunken state, his movements no longer follow any conventional combat logic. Instead of predictable attacks, he becomes an erratic tornado of unpredictable strikes, so chaotic that even Kimimaro, a master of taijutsu himself, couldn't keep up. This is a true paradigm shift in the ninja world, where losing control paradoxically becomes the ultimate advantage. On the other hand, Killer Bee's Disturbance Taijutsu delivers a more complex, yet equally devastating approach. In his clash against Sasuke, Bee demonstrated the insane beauty of wielding 7 swords simultaneously while moving with bizarre, almost incomprehensible rhythms. Even with the Sharingan, Sasuke had a hard time deciphering and reacting to those utterly unpredictable attacks. Honestly, if he didn't have the Sharingan, he probably would have been dead within the first 10 seconds. These two fighting styles strike directly at the very core of what makes the Sharingan so terrifying, its ability to analyze and predict. Sharingan operates on logical patterns. It reads muscle tension, body posture, and habitual movements to make eerily accurate predictions. But when faced with the sheer randomness of Drunken Fist, or the deliberately erratic chaos of Disturbance Taijutsu, this so-called divine eye suddenly becomes a calculator trying to solve an equation with no solution. I mean, if even the attacker has no idea what their next move is, how the hell is the Sharingan supposed to read that? That's the genius of it. However, like all powerful techniques, both styles come with their own hilariously brutal requirements. Drunken Fist demands not only exceptional taijutsu, but also a full-on drunken state, something that very few ninja are willing, or stupidly brave enough, to maintain mid-battle. Rock Lee is one of those rare, beautiful disasters of nature who can actually pull it off. On the other hand, Killer Bee's Disturbance Taijutsu is a whole different beast. It requires master-level swordsmanship, borderline absurd creativity and movement, and, most importantly, a true artist's soul. Before we wrap up, I just want to say a huge thank you. We've officially passed 20,389 subscribers. That number might look simple, but to us, it means everything. Every single click, every like, every sub, it's helped our channel grow a little more each day, and we truly appreciate it. Our next goal, 25,000, and we'd love to hit that milestone with you. If you've enjoyed this video, or if you just love diving deep into the ninja world with us, hit that like button and smash the subscribe if you haven't already. Let's keep growing together. Now, pure speed tactics. Now here's the thing, not everyone can just fight like a total maniac. Most combat styles inevitably follow some kind of pattern or rhythm. So, how do you counter the Sharingan without inventing an entirely new fighting style from scratch? Simple. You just need to be faster than the Sharingan can react. The Sharingan works by predicting the opponent's movements. But what happens when the opponent moves faster than the brain and nervous system can even process? At that point, the Sharingan's greatest strength ironically becomes its greatest liability. The brain can see what's happening, but it can't react in time. It's like trying to dodge a bullet after you've already been hit. And this isn't just theory. This has been definitively proven in several iconic battles throughout the series. Remember the Chunin exams? That legendary Rock Lee versus Gaara fight? When Lee opened the 5th gate, even Kakashi, watching from the stands with his own Sharingan, literally couldn't track his movements. If Kakashi couldn't keep up, what chance does anyone else have? And then there's Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash. He's the living embodiment of what happens when speed completely nullifies the Sharingan. In his battle with Obito, Minato used the Flying Thunder God technique so brilliantly, so absurdly fast, that not only did he outspeed Obito's Kamui, but he absolutely made the 3-Tomo Sharingan look like it was running on dial-up. Obito was completely and utterly helpless. We absolutely have to mention the epic showdown between Raikage and Sasuke, where Raikage's electrified speed utterly overwhelmed Sasuke's Sharingan. Honestly, the only reason Sasuke didn't get instantly smacked into next week was because of Susanoo. That fight clearly demonstrated that once speed reaches a certain threshold, even supreme prediction abilities become completely meaningless. In this clash, the Sharingan user was forced into pure defense mode, barely hanging on behind layers of chakra armor, reduced from proud combatant to glorified turtle. It's the perfect example of how overwhelming speed can turn an active Sharingan into a passive bystander. But if we're talking peak speed-based flexes, Might Guy versus Madara Uchiha is hands down the most gloriously absurd example in the entire series. When Guy opened the 8 gates, his speed soared past the boundaries of human limitation. So much so that even Madara, equipped with both the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Rinnegan, just stood there and took the hits. He literally couldn't react. That moment alone proved beyond any doubt that raw speed can beat even the most legendary eyes in ninja history. Pure speed, interestingly enough, can be achieved through a variety of paths. Tobirama and Minato chose the route of space-time ninjutsu with Flying Thunder God, teleporting faster than most could blink. Then you have Rock Lee and Might Guy, who went full monk mode and reached absurd speed through nothing but brutal training and relentless self-discipline. And that, honestly, is kinda beautiful. Taking a fundamental ability and perfecting it to the extreme, that's not just strength. That's art. That's minimalism turned lethal. But of course, this strategy isn't without its glaring drawbacks. Not everyone can reach the necessary speed levels. It's ridiculously difficult. And even if you do get there, raw speed burns through stamina and chakra like crazy. If you don't end the fight fast, you'll burn out before your opponent even breaks a sweat. Plus, smart Sharingan users can always pull out defensive techniques, like Susanoo, to tank your speed assault and turn the fight into a long, miserable endurance test. So yeah, speed is epic, but it's not free. It's a high-risk, high-reward gamble that only the most insane, or insanely prepared, shinobi can pull off. Hand seal compression. Okay, so everyone knows the Sharingan can copy many jutsu just by watching it. That means you could go all out with some flashy high damage technique, and boom, your opponent turns around and hits you with your own move like it's Uno reverse. Let's not forget that iconic Kakashi versus Zabuza fight. In that battle, Kakashi flawlessly copied Zabuza's Water Dragon Jutsu using the Sharingan. So what, are powerful jutsu basically useless against a Sharingan user? Oh no, my friend. Think again. Now imagine, what if the hand seals for that jutsu were so compressed, so ridiculously shortened, that the Sharingan literally couldn't keep up? Take Water Dragon Jutsu, for example. Most shinobi need a whopping 44 hand seals to summon that majestic aquatic beast. But Tobirama, the guy casually reduced it down to 2. So even if Kakashi sees those 2 seals and copies them, can he actually perform the jutsu? Absolutely not. Why? Because shortening hand seals isn't just some parlor trick. It's like condensing an entire novel into a haiku without losing meaning. It requires an absurd level of understanding of the jutsu's internal mechanics, chakra manipulation at a microscopic level, and, most importantly, raw genius. Tobirama didn't just use the jutsu. He created it. He knew it inside out. That's why he could streamline it like a chakra-wielding speedrunner. But if you're someone who's never used the jutsu before, someone who's just copying moves like you're cramming for a final exam, you need the full seal sequence. The Sharingan simply can't cheat its way past that. Compared to other anti-Sharingan strategies, hand seal compression brings some seriously unique advantages. It doesn't require god-tier physical stats. It doesn't depend on environmental conditions. It's a pure, brain-powered technique based entirely on intelligence and mastery. And that just makes Tobirama's genius shine even brighter. But of course, like every high-level skill, it comes with a price. Compressing complex hand seals into minimalist movements demands not just immense knowledge, but also insanely precise chakra control and significantly denser chakra output. And if you didn't create the jutsu yourself, yeah, good luck shortening its hand seals. That's exactly why, to this day, only one man, Tobarama freaking Senju, has ever reached this absurd level of mastery. Using uncopyable jutsu. So, is there any way to stop the Sharingan from copying your jutsu? Oh, absolutely. And guess what? It's actually ridiculously simple. Just use a jutsu it literally can't learn. Wait, what does that even mean? Well, even though the Sharingan can observe and memorize every single micro detail of a technique, it can only copy jutsu that the user has the chakra nature to perform. Meaning, if Mr. Sharingan doesn't have an ounce of Earth Release chakra, he can watch you spam hand seals all day and still not cast your Earth-style jutsu. You could literally walk up to him, hand him a scroll, and personally tutor him seal by seal, and he'd still be like, nope. So, yeah, even regular shinobi can exploit this very real blind spot. How? By mastering chakra natures that their opponent doesn't have. If you know Sasuke's chakra is biased toward fire and lightning, a ninja proficient in earth or water release could gain a huge advantage simply by playing to that mismatch. Of course, this kind of strategy requires actual tactical thinking and a solid understanding of your opponent's strengths and limitations. But if done right, it's borderline genius. And trust me, not every Uchiha is out here copying jutsu like Kakashi is. Kakashi is a whole different breed. He's basically the exception that proves the rule. The man has mastery over all 5 basic chakra natures, plus yin and yang release. That's why he can copy pretty much anything that isn't nailed down. He's got over 1,000 jutsu under his belt, not because Sharingan is magic, but because he's a walking jutsu encyclopedia with cracked chakra control. Realistically, very, very few ninja have access to all 5 elements and yin-yang release. That's ultra-rare territory. And don't forget, there are also techniques that Sharingan straight up cannot copy, namely secret techniques, Haiden, and Kikei Genkai. If you're born into a special clan with exclusive bloodline abilities, congrats! You've basically got copyright protection built into your DNA. That, my friend, is what we call the art of monopoly. Training the anti-Genjutsu Eye. Of course, the Sharingan isn't just about copying moves or tracking your every twitch. It's also insanely powerful when it comes to Genjutsu. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even need to do anything. One glare from those cursed red eyes, and boom, you're already mentally folded before the fight even begins. So, how do you counter something that attacks your mind before your fists can even swing? Simple. Just don't look into their eyes. Seriously, stop making prolonged eye contact like you're on a romantic date. When you fight a Sharingan user, keep your gaze strictly neck down. Stop chatting. Stop staring. Just swing. This is something Taijutsu masters excel at, especially Guy, Kakashi's eternal rival, and very enthusiastic best friend. You know Kakashi, right? He's got a Sharingan. He can use Genjutsu. So, naturally, Guy had to figure out a way to counter that from the jump. And his solution is brilliantly stupid. Or maybe stupidly brilliant. Either way, it works. Simple, but effective. But what if your fighting style doesn't revolve around taijutsu? What if you're not a physical powerhouse like Guy? Enter Deidara, the explosive artist with a surprisingly clever solution. Train your damn eye to resist Genjutsu. Yep, this guy turned his humiliating loss to Itachi, where he got absolutely mind-crushed by a single Genjutsu, into fuel for the ultimate mental upgrade. He trained his left eye to recognize and actively resist Genjutsu, turning his brain into a Genjutsu-proof fortress. That's evolution. Now, how does this actually work? Well, Sharingan-based Genjutsu functions by injecting chakra into the target's nervous system, usually via direct eye contact, and then manipulating their senses from the inside out. Training an anti-Genjutsu eye is basically like installing a firewall in your brain. You build up awareness to detect abnormal chakra intrusions, and then you manually sever the chakra link before the illusion can fully take hold. Not everyone can reach the level of awareness Deidara did, because, let's be honest, That kind of genjutsu resistance demands ridiculously precise chakra control and an almost supernatural sensitivity to chakra flow. Training that anti-genjutsu eye isn't something you knock out over a weekend. We're talking years of intense, focused effort. And in Deidara's case, it took a cocktail of burning hatred for Itachi, a bruised ego, and absurd perseverance to even get there. But it paid off, big time. In his battle against Sasuke, Deidara's resistance to genjutsu became a massive, game-changing surprise factor. Sasuke, clearly expecting his usual genjutsu tricks to work like a charm, suddenly found himself staring down an opponent who was just not buying it. This forced Sasuke to switch over to more direct techniques like Chidori and high-level lightning release ninjutsu, which, let's face it, is rare for a Sharingan user. They're used to being the mental bullies of the battlefield, so getting stonewalled like that definitely rattled the game plan. Line of sight denial. Alright, if you can't copy jutsu like Kakashi, blitz like Minato, or resist genjutsu like Deidara, don't worry. You still have one gloriously simple, devastatingly effective option left. Take away the one thing Sharingan needs most: vision. Imagine drenching the battlefield in thick fog or absolute darkness, turning that all-seeing eye into a glorified red contact lens. Suddenly, the Uchiha's greatest weapon becomes little more than a fashion statement. See, the Sharingan relies heavily on visual input to perform its three core functions: predicting movements, copying ninjutsu, and casting genjutsu. Remove vision, and boom, all three get completely nullified. Zabuza Momochi knew this intimately. His hidden mist jutsu turns the battlefield into his home turf, blanketing everything in vision-killing fog. Even Kakashi, with Sharingan and elite-level combat instincts, struggled against this technique. Tobirama Senju, another Misty mastermind, took it even further. He invented several water-release jutsu that, when clashing with fire release, produce steam to blur the vision of, guess who? The Uchiha. This man dedicated his entire life to nerfing that clan, and even documented his findings for future generations. Now, of course, some Sharingan, like Sasuke's, can detect chakra color through fog, so if your mist isn't dense enough and your jutsu involves a visible chakra signature, there's still a tiny chance you get exposed. In that case, it's time to pull out the big guns. Introducing Bringer of Darkness. This high-level illusion, developed by Hashirama Senju, doesn't just obscure sight. It completely drowns the opponent in total sensory-deadening darkness. And get this, no dojutsu can see through it. Not Sharingan, not Byakugan, not even the almighty Rinnegan. Everyone's blind, equally and unconditionally. Of course, to use these tactics effectively, you have to be comfortable fighting in the dark, ideally with silent assassination skills, like those of the Mist Village shinobi. With that kind of training, you don't need to see your enemy. You just need to hear them breathe, and that's enough to end them. So instead of relying on overwhelming power or convoluted techniques, you're essentially weaponizing the battlefield itself. This forces the Sharingan user to fall back on chakra-intensive defenses like Susanoo, draining their resources while you lurk in the shadows, preparing your next surprise attack. Non-physical attacks. Alright, so you're fighting someone with Mangekyo Sharingan, and boom, out pops a full-blown Susanoo. Congratulations, you've officially entered the don't bother punching that phase of the fight. At this stage, your basic punches, kicks, kunai throws, and flashy jutsu combos, utterly useless. You could break your legs kicking that ribcage, and it'll respawn 5 seconds later like nothing ever happened. So instead of wasting chakra and dignity, let's change the game. Hit them where Susanoo can't reach, through non-physical attacks. A classic example is sound-based genjutsu. Unlike traditional Sharingan genjutsu, which requires eye contact to hijack your chakra network, sound genjutsu uses vibrations and frequencies to slip into your brain via your ears. Susanoo can block swords, arrows, and meteors. But sound don't care. Remember when Kabuto played that cursed flute in the cave? He turned the entire cave into a giant, echoing amplifier of psychological doom. Even Sasuke and Itachi, armed with their mighty Susanoo armors, couldn't block out the melodies of madness. They had to manually break the genjutsu for each other. That's how bad it was. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk hypothetical, but totally terrifying, ninjutsu, like Boyle style. Mei Terumi literally melted Susanoo with acid mist. It almost killed Sasuke. So yeah, that armor ain't airtight. By this logic, things like extreme heat, toxic gases, or even chakra-infused mist could theoretically seep through and wreak havoc. Because as tough as Susanoo is, it's mainly designed to counter direct physical assaults, not sneaky environmental effects or stealthy mental sabotage. So, next time you face an Uchiha cloaked in giant chakra samurai armor, don't punch it. Psychologically damage them instead. Or gas them. Be creative. Team tactics and long-range attacks. And hey, if you don't have all those fancy tricks up your sleeve, here's the simplest, most brutally effective advice. Don't fight an Uchiha alone. Seriously, just fight with a team. Beyond the obvious advantage of combining skills to overwhelm a powerful foe, there's a much more practical reason. Escaping Genjutsu solo is nearly impossible, but with backup, whole different story. Remember when Itachi messed with Naruto's mind with just a finger? Naruto got trapped tight, and without Sakura and Granny Chiyo stepping in to break that illusion, he'd have been toast. That, my friend, is the core magic of team fighting. Someone actively interferes with the chakra flow of the victim caught in Genjutsu, creating the crucial disruption needed to shatter the illusion. Even the legendary Uchiha brothers, Sasuke and Itachi, team up to combat Kabuto's sound Genjutsu. When Kabuto launched his insidious sonic trap that neither could break alone, they simply locked eyes, not to cast Genjutsu, but to smash the mental chains holding them hostage. Yeah, brotherly synergy. And here's the cherry on top. When you factor in the role of Jinchuriki like Naruto and Killer Bee, it gets even crazier. Kurama and the Eight Tails can act like special teammates inside your body, able to intervene from within to snap their hosts out of Genjutsu. This is a unique advantage only accessible to Jinchuriki, who've truly bonded with their tailed beasts. But fair warning, that's a whole nother level of trust and teamwork, and definitely not something you get by just snapping your fingers. If you're totally out of options and absolutely forced to fight solo, just spam Shadow Clone Jutsu like crazy. Why? The more targets there are, the more the Sharingan gets confused and distracted. Chances are you'll still lose, probably spectacularly, but at least you tried. Or listen to this. Sharingan works best at mid-range and close range, so if you've got some long-distance jutsu, use them smartly and mercilessly. Deidara knew all the tricks to counter Sharingan perfectly. And seriously, how often do you see him get up close and personal with Sasuke? Hardly ever. He just flies around and bombs the place with his clay bombs. Even if you don't have Deidara-level Genjutsu resistance, remember this. Sharingan's scariest eye techniques like Itachi's Tsukuyomi require direct eye contact. When distance opens up, their Genjutsu effectiveness drops dramatically. Even Imaetarasu becomes slower and less precise. So yeah, those are some sneaky ways to counter Sharingan. Good luck having a fun fight against a Sharingan user. But if you end up facing an Uchiha like Madara, well, don't do nothing. You better just summon Hashirama. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.